Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the tournament. Today we are on round 1, part 6 of the My Favorite WWF LJN Wrestling Superstars tournament. And today this is going to be a pretty heavy tag team tournament. Now, you guys know I have been using the randomizer.org to basically randomly select each of these matchups. And I don't know how or why it basically selected both Bushwhackers and the Rockers to be part of today's matchups. Now, it's not the Rockers versus Bushwhackers in each of these matchups, but you are going to see both tag teams, both members of each tag team in this video. So that is something to look forward to in this video. So that's pretty interesting. And another character that you are going to see, in fact, I'm going to hold up the first matchup right now, because first matchup we are going to talk about is going to feature number 14, Yellow SD Jones, as he takes on number 4, Hillbilly Jim. And we're going to start with Hillbilly Jim, because I'm telling you guys, Hillbilly Jim in this tournament cannot get no love. Not only does he get no love, this man, I swear to God, this figure in particular, it just seems like he cannot get an easy. It doesn't ever seem that he does. How do I word this? There's never a squash match. That's the best way that I can word it. There's never a squash match when it comes to a Hillbilly Jim a matchup in a My Favorite LJN tournament. The first couple of times that we've done a My Favorite LJN tournament, Hillbilly Jim always went up against Big John Studd. I love the Hillbilly Jim figure. Even though the first couple tournaments, I really didn't give him the appreciation he deserved. And he wasn't beating a Big John Studd, okay? The third tournament, yes, all the figures were their own uniqueness. So even though I had a couple of Hillbilly Jim Customs, the Santa Clauses, so I wasn't squaring them off against each other. That was fine, right? And they were random drawings pulled out of a bowl, so they weren't being selected based on how they were situated on the shelf. So it wasn't Hillbilly Jim versus Big John Studd like the previous couple tournaments. So the figure actually had a chance to go a little bit further, and I think he made it 2 rounds, 3 rounds, I don't remember. But going up against who I classify to be like one of the top 10 best LJNs, one of the best top 10 figures. Now, once upon a time, I said this was the number 10 best LJN. Do I still say that today? No. SD Jones today, this has got to be in the top 5. If SD Jones isn't a number 1 best LJN today, he's at least in the top 5, easy. So, but let's talk about this, because like I said, Hillbilly Jim, this isn't a squash match by no means. I have a much better appreciation for this particular figure than I once did when I first acquired this. So you guys know, when I look at a figure like Nikolai Volkov, right? That figure means a lot to me because it was the very first LJN figure that I ever acquired. And when I held that figure in my hand, it what started my love for the LJNs. When I first started acquiring LJNs, I'm like, you know what, maybe I'd buy them, maybe I'd be a reseller. I really didn't have any love for the LJNs because I didn't have them as a kid. So I didn't have that nostalgia, I didn't have that love and appreciation, that respect for the line. But holding that Nikolai Volkov in my hand, yes. I saw that figure and I'm like, man, they got me. Hillbilly Jim was my second figure, so, and I got those figures because they were affordable. Hillbilly Jim was like a $6 figure, so, by terms of value, it wasn't all that, right? And I really didn't know a whole lot about Hillbilly Jim. Like I couldn't remember him from childhood. When I reflect on Hillbilly Jim nowadays, I think primetime wrestling. I think 91 to 93 when he was a sort of commentator on that weekend show. You know, sitting around the round table with like Bobby Heenan and Mr. Perfect and like Vince McMahon, right? And kind of reflecting on that show, absolutely, I remember that. You know, that light bulb pops up, but you gotta go back and you gotta reflect on that stuff later on. I'm like, yes, now I kind of remember that. You kind of remember back on like WrestleMania 3 and, you know, him and his Little People tag team match against King Kong Bundy and his Little People, right? That match was like, oh my God, yes, I remember that because, you know, that VHS tape, that WrestleMania 3 tape that we had as kids, we watched the hell out of that when we were young, so. And Hillbilly Jim, as an action figure, he's got that weight. He's got that bulk that I like. He does have a really good pose. I mean, not the greatest in the world, but it is definitely a serviceable, playable action figure. And, you know, when he came into the WWF around, 84, he was actually posed to be a very solidified mega superstar, but then he had these knee injuries and whatnot, and that kind of put a damper into you know, his stardom. So instead of being this big superstar, you know, all the vignettes with Hogan, he basically became a mid card type of guy, and that's why you basically saw him not squash matches, but he was up against King Kong Bundy in a lot of matches because Bundy was basically going to win a lot of those matches because Bundy was a big guy, Hillbilly Jim was a big guy, so it kind of made sense to put them in a lot of matches together. And then later on, like I said, kind of like little commentating in like, you know, primetime or Saturday night's main events and, you know, primetime wrestling, stuff like that. And in the 90s, he was the Godwins, you know, manager. So it's a really good figure. One that I really enjoy. But going up against SD Jones, he actually had I like the moniker Special Delivery Jones. I kind of learned about this recently. And what was the guy's name? Was it Draws? Tony Draw? I actually have a Jakks Pacific Classic Superstars of this character, and I only have it because it was part of the line, but it's just one of those things that you pick up because you're a collector and you want as many of the figures for the line as possible. But it wasn't somebody I actually grew up watching or anything like that, so I didn't have a lot of knowledge of the character. I think the wrestler's name was Draws, and I think he was somebody that trained SD Jones. I can't remember what his real name was in real life, but he's like, I delivered him, and or special delivery, right? So that's where he kind of got the name Special Delivery Jones. So I thought that was interesting how he came up with how they got the name, the moniker Special Delivery. So I thought that was pretty fascinating, and he was a tag team partner with Tony Atlas, so they vied for their tag team belts a lot in the 1970s. So he wasn't always just a simple, you know, enhancement talent in the 70s and 80s. And of course, SD Jones is, you know, in the latter half of the 2010s, he was posthumously inducted into the Hall of Fame, the Wrestling Hall of Fame. So around 2010-ish, maybe a couple years prior, 2008 maybe, he had passed away. So unfortunately, he wasn't alive when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. And I hate when that happens. You know, I think baseball, and I think Ron Santo, and, you know, Ron Santo, who had passed away, and, you know, years later, posthumously promoted, was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. And that sucks. I mean, I hate when people die without ever knowing that they're Hall of Famers. So that sucks, right? And of course, SD Jones. you know that you're a beloved character for Vince McMahon Sr., Vince McMahon Jr. when you highlight, you're more than just an enhancement talent when you highlight the first WrestleMania ever. But he's also famous for being in a 9-second squash match with King Kong Bundy. But anybody that actually watches that match knows that it was more than 9 seconds. But it was considered to be the shortest WrestleMania match ever. But I love this match. I love the choke slam of SD Jones. You got that punch. You got that thickness, the weight. Like I said, great playability. If you're a kid, hell, if I wanted to sit down right now and have a wrestling match, SD Jones is probably the first figure I'm going to grab because this is such an awesome playable and action figure. And this is a figure first tournament, right? And SD Jones is one of the greatest. So, to me, SD Jones is a bona fide, glorified, yes. Is he someone that could win this tournament? Absolutely. I know a lot of people are probably thinking that a custom is probably going to win the tournament. Probably. But you can't go wrong with SD Jones. If you think that SD Jones could be written down on the docket as a possible winner for this tournament, you could be right. So, SD Jones moving forward to round 2. All right, moving on. This is a tough one right here. Oops. All right, number 73, Marty Jannetty taking on number 6, Andre the Giant, number 2. So, Marty Jannetty does come from Random Treasures, and Andre the Giant from Series 2. Let's start off with Andre. So, Andre the Giant. Now, obviously, we know Andre the Giant Series 1. LJN released the long-haired Afro Andre, the more, familiar Andre the Giant in the 80s. In Series 1, right? Now, at the time that Series 1 Andre was being released, what was going on in late 84? Let's say around Thanksgiving time. So let's say around November of 84. Ken Patera, Big John Studd, they've got Andre down in the ring. And they've got the Clippers, man, and they're over there, they're shaving that infamous afro. The famous haircut, as they call it. So afro is gone, and now that popular Series 1 big-haired Andre the Giant from Series 1 is basically null and void for fans, for kids, I guess. And yes, you have guys like Hulk Hogan, the biggest superstar in wrestling, the biggest superstar in the WWF, most certainly. But if you got one man that's probably a bigger superstar in not only WWF, but probably in all of professional wrestling, bigger than Hulk Hogan, who could that be? It's got to be Andre the Giant. So in Series 2, you're not coming out with the second Hulk Hogan, but you are coming out with a second Andre the Giant. In 6 series of LJNs, you did get 3 Hulk Hogans. You also got 3 Andre the Giants. The difference, it took 2 releases of Hulk Hogan in Series 5. It actually took 3 separate series, so better, to get 3 releases of Andre. Now, you might argue, well, they did come out with a re-release of both white and red Hogan in Series 6, so technically 5, if you want to count it that way, which I really don't. So now, some might say, well, this is a better version of Andre the Giant. Now, in Series 1, Andre, his arms were out just a pinch more, right? So I kind of gravitate towards that Andre a little bit better. When I talk about my favorite Andre the Giant figure, I don't say Series 6, I don't say Series 2, I always say Series 1. That's fine. Now, obviously, if I'm putting them in order, I'm going to say Series 6, Blackstrap, number 1, Series 2, Series 1. But, again, I basically eliminate Series 2. I basically eliminate Series 6 when I count my favorite figures. Because there's no point of counting them, you know, let's say that one is number 1 is number 3. Let's say this is number 4, that one number 5. No. I just completely omit them completely. I just love the figure, right? They're all incredible, regardless of what number you put them at. Face sculpt, a little bit better, a little bit more Andre the Giant-esque in look. And 85, I'm trying to think. The movie The Princess Bride with Carrie Ells and when did that movie come out? I'm thinking 85, but it could have been I think it could have been as late as 87 though. 87, maybe even 88. Because Fred Savage was in that movie, and I mean he was younger. Because Little Monsters came out I think in 88, and you know I think the movie may have come out in 87. So yeah, I think that would have made more sense. 87. So that would have given Andre actually a little bit more time to grow his hair out a little bit longer. And that could have actually been a wig in that movie. So, one of the most perfect figures in the line, right? Does an original beat a custom? The difference between the two figures, yes, Andre has the better pose. Yes, Andre is bigger, thicker, heavier. Does that hurt this matchup going up against Marty Jannetty? It can. Here is something that does help Marty Jannetty significantly in this matchup. And this right here is what hurts figures like Hulk Hogan Series 1. It's what hurts Andre the Giant Series 1. It's what hurts Andre the Giant Series 2. It's what hurts Greg Valentine Series 2 in these matchups. Greg, straight jet black. Hulk Hogan, straight jet yellow. Either Series 1 or Series 2 Andre. Straight jet blue trunks and boots, right? There's just not enough color and detail throughout the whole figure. Yeah, they're ring ready, but that's it. I love the poses, and that makes them perfect, but what else do you got going for them? The Marty Jannetty figure. Marty Jannetty has to be one of my top 10 all-time favorite wrestlers. His technical skills in ring, his acrobatics, he is one of the most amazing wrestlers out there. You think Marty Jannetty, you think Shawn Michaels, 1, 2, 3 Kid. I love, oh my God, you watch a wrestling match between 1, 2, 3 Kid and Marty Jannetty. I love those matches. I mean, pretty much put Sean Waltman up against anybody, man. 1, 2, 3 Kid against, you know, let's say Marty Jannetty, or 1, 2, 3 Kid against like Bret Hart. Those matches will always be astronomically phenomenal. But I mean, those matches will always just work. What I don't like is this right here, right? And bring this arm down just to like, that would make this a killer figure. But you gotta give this a Bad News Brown fighting pose. And figures like Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, that ruins the figure for me. But think about the Rockers. I mean, whether you're looking at the Midnight Rockers or just plain Rockers, you know, 85 to 92, these were the greatest freaking tag teams of all time. The fact that they were only together for roughly, you know, 7 years or so, if they had the longevity of, let's say, the Bushwhackers, aka Sheepherders, etc., of, you know, 4 decades of being working together, they would have gone down as one of the greatest, probably the greatest tag team ever. But, you know, around a decade or less, and, you know, that's what hurt them. But you look at them in AWA, multiple tag team champions, and holding other titles as well, right? What's funny is when they were first hired by WWF, they got into a bar fight, fired, same day. Then they had to go back to AWA, had to reestablish themselves before they were brought back, and then back in '87 came back to WWF and really set themselves apart as just major acrobatic, just in and out of the ring. The way that they worked in tandem together, the Rockers were just incredible. And I went with this particular this look with the Rockers because in 1990, Fort Wayne, Indiana, the Rockers actually defeated, and I think it was the best of 2 out of 3 falls against the Hart Foundation. The Rockers defeated the Hart Foundation, become WWF Tag Team Champions. Their first tag team belts in the WWF. Jim Neidhart was actually scheduled to leave the WWF, but what happened is the WWF, they actually worked out a new contract with Jim Neidhart, and the ropes actually broke during the matchup. And something wrong with the taping or whatnot. It was untaped or untelevised matchup or some crap like that. And they decided, you know what? We take it back. Because the ropes broke, we're gonna decide that, you know what, it didn't count. Jim Neidhart's not leaving the company. We're gonna decide that it didn't count. We're gonna keep the belts on the Hart Foundation, and the Rockers, they never won the belts. It's as if it never happened. Bullshit. So now, one of the greatest tag teams in history officially never won any tag team belts in the WWF. I mean, they highlight Royal Rumbles and WrestleManias and Survivor Series and SummerSlam, and they're always winners. They're just absolute fan favorites. You're telling me they could have never had any tag team titles? Demolition, Nasty Boys, Steiner Brothers, Legion of Doom, Demolition, Nasty Boys, Steiner Brothers. I mean, all of these amazing tag teams in the late 80s and 90s. And, I mean, even the freaking Smoking Guns, man. I think Head Shrinkers have had the freaking belts. You're telling me you could have given the freaking Rockers the tag team titles at some point? Mind-blowing, right? Horrendous. And then the event in early 92. What was it, January 92? And the event at the barbershop when Shawn Michaels put Marty Jannetty through a window. Super kick, threw him through the window. End of the Rockers. And set off Shawn Michaels' career as the Heartbreak Kid, and set off one of the greatest careers ever. One of the greatest Intercontinental Champions ever. One of the greatest Heavyweight Champions ever. But I love this figure, man. I really do. I'm glad that Net did an absolutely amazing job with the paint on this figure. But you're not going to beat Andre the Giant. This, like I said, there are very few figures, if any, that in this tournament that are going to come up against Andre the Giant and win. So there might be a select few originals in this tournament that could defeat Andre number 2. Possibly. Maybe his own Series 1. Maybe. That I might push over this one. Potentially. Question mark. But Customs, I don't know. It's really going to be a heat of the moment type of deal. You really won't know until you actually have them up in your hands and you're talking about them, whether or not who you're going to choose at that given moment. But Andre does push forward to round 2. All right. Which one? This one right here. All right. Number 33. White referee takes on number 90. I call this one Black Luke. And technically, it should be Gray Luke of the Bushwhackers. Now, this one's actually a lot tougher. Because even though you think that the referee, it's a very plain and generic figure, think about Terry Funk. A lot of people love the Terry Funk figure, right? And it really took a long time for me to become a fan of the Terry Funk. But eventually, once you start adding the accessories, that's when I started liking the Terry Funk a lot more. Once upon a time, I looked at Terry Funk and I'm like, maybe a 60 best, a number 60 best figure. And then when I started doing the countdown, like, putting them in order, I think eventually I put him in like number 30 or something. I don't know. But the referee, he's basically a Terry Funk figure. They're very similar pose. Terry Funk, his arm is just out just a little bit further with the accessory. So if you're a kid, or hell, right now, if you're an adult and you wrestle your LJNs, whatever, you don't have to use a referee as a referee, right? I mean, the referee could technically be like his gimmick. So you could still use this as a wrestling figure, right? The one downside, and you find this a lot with the XOX Customs figures, is that a lot of, especially with their earlier figures, the rubber on a lot of these figures, the rubber is very cheap. It's very thin, flimsy, right? So it's not the highest quality rubber. So when you look at the skin tone, it doesn't mesh well with the original line, and so it's very, like I said, it's very flimsy. Skin tone doesn't match up, or the paint chips very easy. So when you look at, when you compare, it isn't comparable a lot of times. But if you take that away, what I really like about the figure from the waist down, that's what's really exciting about the particular Bushwhackers. And this is what I wanted my Waddy Soldier custom that I had commissioned to look like, with the cargo pants, with the way that the cargo pocket shoots out. That's what I really like. The graphical design on this, the detail that went into this looks absolutely amazing. And the Bushwhacker walk, come down the aisle, and I can't do it with this, but that's what I freaking like. That's amazing. And when you think about that pose, right, when they come down the aisle, that's what you're familiar with. So this particular pose, it makes sense when you think of that reference. As a kid, I mean, you really can't do a whole lot with this. It's not really a playable, but I mean, you could still do, some things, right? I mean, you could still mess around with it. I mean, there are a lot of unplayable figures that you made use out of. As a kid, I had the Series 2 Bear Hug Hogan, right? And even with the arms closed, you don't sit there and hold the arms open and throw punches. You kept the hands closed, and you just kind of threw punches like that because, maybe your brothers were using the Series 1 Hogan, the arm slamming Hogan, and that's just the Hogan that you had available to you, so you made do. So if you're a kid, you can make use out of anything. And it's fine. For playability purposes, the referee, in my opinion, is the better serviceable figure. And what I also enjoy, in 1988, what was going on? Now, obviously, Hogan was getting ready to leave because No Holds Barred, 1989 being released, right? And you had that whole event with the Hebner twins, with Dave and Earl Hebner. And you had the Evil Twin, whole Evil Twins incident, and the $1 Million Man paying off the Evil Twin, and the money falling out of the pocket. And so you think Series 5 LJN with white shirt and blue shirt referees. Now, these are supposed to represent just generic referees. They're not supposed to represent any specific referee or anything like that. But you got two referees that were released in 88 in Series 5. Think about this. 1988, you have two referees. They're twins. Why couldn't these be the Hebners? I mean, for today's standards, I think we could definitely think of them in those terms. And like I said, with the Bushwhackers for 40 years, man, these guys worked together for 40 years. That is insane. I mean, back in the 70s or so, man, like, yeah, for the New Zealand sheep herders, like maybe you had a couple other members of those tag teams. I don't remember those guys' names. I don't think that's really important, but for the most part, Luke and Butch were pretty much the standard. And it's not like they were like constantly being swapped out. It was just occasional. Like if one member wasn't available, here's another guy to swap out from time to time. But I am going to go with Luke on this one because I think in this particular case you kind of have to, right? So Luke of the Bushwhackers is going to move on to round 2. And last matchup is going to feature number 72, Shawn Michaels, taking on number 89, Butch. Again, both members coming from Random Treasures. Good thing is, I pretty much said a lot of the back history when I was talking about Marty Jannetty with the Midnight Rockers and rockers in general. So, don't have to really give a lot of history. I mean, anyone growing up in the 90s knows all about the Heartbreak Kid and probably knows about Sherry Martel. And I like the whole storyline when Rick Martel and Shawn Michaels had their matchup. And they both had like this pretty boy gimmick, right? So, and they're both managed by Sherry Martel, right? And because they both had like this pretty boy gimmick, they had this thing where they couldn't hit each other in the face. And I'm like, get the hell out of here with that crap. But look at this, man. You think, does that really look like Shawn Michaels to you, though? It really doesn't. And you think, well, maybe that's not really a good figure. But you want to hate on the figure in the face, but then I digress, because I backtrack a little bit. I say that with Random Treasures, with a lot of figures they've been coming out with, and again, I think about Legion of Doom, I think about the Bushwhackers, I think about the Natural Disasters, the Rockers, I don't know if I mentioned them already, right? But all these characters that they've been coming out with, that yes, they could originate from the 80s, right? And they could, fall in line beautifully with the LJNs, with the era of the LJNs, but they could also fit in beautifully with the era of Hasbro. And when you look at that face of Shawn Michaels, what does that look like to you? It looks like the 1991 release of the tag team, of the 2-pack tag team of the Shawn Michaels Rockers Hasbro figures. Like almost like they just screenshot the 2-pack Hasbros. So I don't mind that for that reason. But what they do with all of their tag teams, they mimic or they mirror their tag teams, and that's something I really wish they would change. I get it, it's probably a whole lot easier just to mirror the figures than to make completely different molds, but it's kind of frustrating though. I want different looks with a lot of figures. But does that hurt? I mean, Marty Jannetty is already out, and I think, I don't know, am I a bigger fan of Marty Jannetty than Shawn Michaels? I think I could be. I think if Marty Jannetty was in the WWF as long as Shawn Michaels, like if he was around WWF, like the whole time that Shawn Michaels was, I probably could have been. But he disappeared. And, he had his issues, right? I mean, Shawn Michaels, he was injured, so he missed a lot of time in the 90s. But Shawn Michaels was always this Intercontinental champion, or he was always heavyweight champion, or he was always winning the Royal Rumble or something, right? So he was around. Even when he was injured and he was taking like immense time off from time to time, he was there. And when Marty Jannetty was coming back, like he was back for short stints and then he was gone again. And even when he was around, like he was having these short stints, really wasn't having like these major pushes or anything. So, I mean, that's why I have Shawn Michaels on my list of like, you know, top 5 all-time favorite wrestlers ever. And Marty Jannetty, he probably would be on my top 10 favorites, probably like around number 9 or 10 maybe. But I think Marty would probably be, again, would probably be like number 6 or 7. Would probably be number 6. I think he and Shawn Michaels would probably go back to back. If I had more, you know, more of a interaction with him, not interaction, but if I had more of a presence of him growing up. And Butch, again, same thing. You really can't make much of a comparison between him and Luke, because same exact figures. You're just mirroring them. And at the end of the day, which one do you like better, right? Play pose of Shawn Michaels, so much better. I mean, it's still a serviceable figure with what it is. In terms of, I mean, that one little cargo pocket that sticks out, I mean, is that little detail, is that enough to push it over the edge? I love the cargo. I love the detail with the color scheme of this, but she did a fantastic job with the detail that went into the pants of the rockers too. So, I mean, it's not like there's a big change, or I can really harp on one color scheme more than another, right? I love the fact that with this one, there's actually skin tone to this Shawn Michaels, where this is just, you know, really bad rubber and, you know, poor skin tone. So, and this looks more LJN realistic, and this is just, you know, bad rubber that makes it, I don't want to say it makes it look like a poor custom, but just not as high quality. I mean, when it comes to Ram Treasure Customs, I mean, I still say the Bushwhackers are probably top 10-ish, top 15 best customs from them. But the rubber really hurts their value. I'm going to go with Shawn Michaels, though. To me, I think this one has to be a no-brainer. I don't want to say no-brainer, but I'm going to go with Shawn Michaels. So, Luke of the Bushwhackers and Shawn Michaels of the Rockers. So one member of each tag team moves forward, and I think that's fine. So you don't have to have both members of each tag team move forward, and that's okay because, like I said, they're just mirrors. So I would have liked to see both Rockers, but the Bushwhackers, I don't really think you needed both of them. I'm happy with the selections. I would have liked to see Hillbilly Jim move forward, but if it was going up against another counterpart, I would have liked to see SD Jones. I would have liked to see Hillbilly Jim. I would have liked to see, obviously, Andre. So, which one? Maybe, that means maybe one of the Rockers take on so maybe one of the Rockers, maybe Shawn Michaels, and the other Rocker and the referee and both Bushwhackers wouldn't have made it. Again, that would have been dependent on the layout of the matches. But either way, that's fine. This was a good video. This was a good matchup. So I'm happy with my overall choices, and hopefully you guys are in agreement. who would you guys have chosen? Let me know in the comments. Otherwise, guys, that will be it for part 6. Stay tuned, and please be sure to tune in on Tuesday and Thursday for part 7 and part 8 of the tournament. So on Thursday with part 8, that will put us halfway through round 1. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Take care, everybody.